Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Jacob. I work for a company called Transcom. For you who don't know Transcom, we are a global outsourcing company specialized in customer care. We have around 30,000 people that on a peak day handle almost 1 million customer care interactions. So we do a lot of customer care on a daily basis on a global scale. So Transcom comes from a outsourcing and BPO background, but we are also deploying technology heavily to our clients. So we are a team from a technology perspective of almost 500 people now. We have deployed a lot of products, but we are very technology agnostic. You know, we are there to serve our clients' problem with human, but also infusing that with technology. So with that said, we are technology agnostic. We will work with a lot of different technology partners, but also service providers like Desabio. So our business is really not into selling only tech, but we sell a complete problem or a complete solution to a problem, combining outsourcing with technology. But from a technology perspective, we have a quite wide offering, and this slide is a little bit skewed here, but we basically divide it into 3 different buckets. We talk about autopilots, which is all about automating the customer experience. We talk more and more about Copilot, which is about augmenting and supporting our people with technology during a customer care interaction. And then it's the insights, which is all about getting the operational insights and the product and commercial insights out of the actual tools itself. And a lot of these technologies are now becoming plain vanilla, something that we work with all our clients on implementing basically, while some of them are more cutting edge, so to say, and still a little bit in the forefront. And what we will talk about today is AI real-time translation for voice, which is still one of our more forward-leaning technologies that we're working with some clients on. And this is super interesting for us because voice is, as we also talked about this morning here, it is still our biggest channel, and we expect it to be that for a long time ahead. So solving the voice volume and the increasing in voice volume is key for us. And like 2 years ago, oh, there it is. 2 years ago, people talked about voice is dead. We will all move to text. It will only be conversational. But what we see is actually the opposite. We see it, you know, last year, this year, the voice volume is increasing. And it's a combination of you know, different factors. But I like the bandwidth reference this morning. I think it's a lot about that it's about convenient, that voice is still big. But it's also the kind of younger generation that is now becoming consumers. They are not, you know, sitting and typing. They're used to walking around like this and kind of speaking to the phone, and they expect to do the same with customer care. So voice is big, and we foresee voice to be big for a long time ahead. And of course, you know, we have been trying for the past to move to email and chat. We've seen the challenges that comes with that. We're now also deploying, of course, heavily AI agent and kind of voice bots, which is the dark blue bar here, which will solve a lot of this most likely and more over time. But we still expect that there is a big chunk of voice interactions that the voice AI cannot solve, at least not for a foreseeable future. So how do you solve that? How do you take care of this big voice volume that we still have? Because we still have, you know, the problem then of finding the right competence at the right price point in order to solve also the manual interactions. And that's where the real-time translation for voice comes into play. Because that way we can recruit for competence rather than finding the person in the right language at the right price point. So that's why it's super interesting to look at AI translation for us. It will allow us to have a much wider pool of customer care agents in different countries serving for specific languages. And this is especially applicable for Northern Europe, where we have, you know, fairly high salaries, but still fairly developed languages. So it is possible to translate and serve these languages from cheaper locations, like Egypt, like India, like Philippines. So how does this work? I will not go into very deep, kind of technically, how the translation works. We will have the Desabio teams soon on stage as well to show it to you what we have done. in a demo. But very basically, you have a language model or a translation model. Yesterday it was DeepL and Google and machine translation. Today it's large language models, who is basically catering for the translation piece. And then on top of that, you have an application that is making this available both to the customer, but also creating a nice agent interface. And this technology is actually less about the customer side, but if you make the agent side very well, you will also solve the customer piece. So we have invested a lot in the agent interface, understanding how do we make the agent experience really good to manage voice translation. Because if we make the agent experience very good, we know that that translates into a good customer experience. And that's not only about technology, it's a lot about technology and giving the agents the right tools in order to answer fast and correct and all of that. But it's also a lot about the framework and how you operationalize it. So we have developed a quite substantial, we call it a translation framework, which is all about how we implement this, how we train our agents, how we adjust the technology for the specific client, loading historical interactions into the tool in order to ensure that the translation becomes not only generic, but actually something that fits that brand and that client. We also work a lot with training the agents on cultural nuances, because even if the translation is doing a good job, if you are serving a market in Northern Europe from India, there might also be something that you as an agent need to think about in how you write your responses and how you speak to the agents. We have learned this, the hard way. We have been, started playing around with this technology already, 1.5 years ago or so. We launched this first in Finland with a big travel company. And what we did there was that we, as we always do, we put the voice bot in the front. The voice bot is telling the customer that, hey, soon you will speak to an agent, but it's through a translation service, so you can expect some delays and so forth. And we had 100% hang-ups. And this was in Finland, and then we realized, okay, so Finland is not yet ready for this kind of service. We moved to France and trying to implement this in the French market, which seemed like they were more open for. But then we had challenges of, the French people are used to being greeted with Madame and Monsieur. And so then we kind of needed to train the agent to actually, hey, when you serve this country, you need to adapt your language so the cultural nuances also comes with that. So we have learned a lot on how to implement translation in a good way. There is still kind of some steps to take from a technology perspective to make the customer experience really, really good. But today the technology is good enough to have it as a good use case for maybe your 24/7 operations, when you have maybe some compliance related cases that you need to serve a specific language 24/7, then you can deploy the translation service outside the business hours or for overflow or something like that. So it's a good complement to an existing operations. Kind of the main three benefits of this technology. Clicker is a bit slow. Obviously, it's a lot about reducing the TCO. We can have customer care agents in a low-cost location serving a high-cost location. That's kind of the fundamental potential of the technology, and that's why for BPOs, it's so interesting to look at this technology. But also, of course, that we can hire, for the agent skills and not only the languages, because some languages are, especially after COVID, becoming very, very expensive and difficult to find. So we can hire for skills and not for languages. And we also see that the agents that we put behind the translation agent is a little bit of a different agent type. Typically we pay a premium to get agents who have very good verbal skills. We don't need to pay for verbal skills anymore, but we rather would like to pay for someone who have good understanding of maybe the technology and can do a little bit more multitasking. So we also have a little bit of a separate agent profile for our translation campaigns. But then of course also it's about the speed. If we have a campaign up and running in 3 languages, we can overnight more or less add a 4th language without needing to hire those skills in that language, create training materials in those languages. We can just continue to add languages we serve without needing to go through the whole recruitment process, training, and so forth. So it's a very scalable approach, and we have, the case we will demo here today is one of those where we start with one language and then we've added more and more and more, and we can do that very easily based on how the clients wants their customers to be served. And as you can see, again, we have some quite expensive Northern European languages which we can serve from operations with almost half the cost. Of course, there is a little bit of a technology cost here in between, so it's not 100% difference, but it is a substantial difference. And we have invested a lot in this technology because we believe in this. And of course, technology cost here is still fairly high, I would say. But the only thing we know is that technology cost will most likely go down when it comes to AI and the translation, and the human cost will go up. So the business case for real-time translation will be even higher, I think. So this is one of the cases that we have been working on. This is Bird, the scooters. They are going into new markets. They have business reasons for needing to have several languages available 24/7 at a cost-efficient point. So what we did here was that we implemented this for 5 markets with 3 languages. We have more languages on the way. We did this together with Sabio. The customers sits in Northern Europe, and the agent sits in India. So we went over there, we built the technology together with them, trained the agents, and we are now live with a handful of languages, and we keep on adding them. And it's this is not one of our high volume cases where we have 200,000 interactions going through this, but it is from a customer perspective, it's a great benefit to be able to offer these languages 24/7. So we don't need to invest in this to shave off a big portion of the interactions, but rather to move some of it here and in order to give the client access to agents in many different languages 24/7 without needing to hire for every single language. We can have a small agent pool serving many markets. That was my short speech on AI translation. I'm happy to talk more about this out in the hallway, and also more about the technology. Also, anything else that Transcom is offering when it comes to digital, happy to discuss. Now I will have my friends from Sabio here actually doing a live demo of this, so you can also see real time how this works in practice.
Thank you, Craig. I'm definitely not singing. Okay. And if one thing is more terrifying, doing on stage, presenting is fine, doing a live demonstration, which we did one test run of yesterday, and there wasn't 200 other people connected to the same Wi-Fi network as us. So we're going to find out how well this goes. So let me just set the scene for you. So Jakob has talked us through what the functionality is, what the technology does. So we're translating the customer conversation in one language through to the agent who interacts in a different language. Now, in this example, Klaus is going to play the role of our customer. He's going to call up, he's going to talk in German, and we will have a variation of translation shown so we all know what's going on. And then Rutger here is going to be our agent, and we'll get to see his agent desktop to understand what that experience looks like. In our scenario, Klaus is calling up his Sabio Logistics to try and rearrange a parcel delivery. A bit of context.
There we go.
Sabio. Hallo, mein Name ist Charlie. Wie kann ich Ihnen heute helfen?
Oh, hallo. Ich habe Möbel, die geliefert werden. Ich hätte gern den Status der Lieferung.
Ich werde den Status Ihrer Lieferung überprüfen. Könnten Sie bitte Ihre Tracking-Nummer angeben?
Oh ja, die 775901.
Möchten Sie Änderungen an Ihrer Lieferung vornehmen?
Ja, bitte. Können wir den Lieferort ändern?
Der Fahrer ist angewiesen, Ihre Lieferung an den Ladebereich zu bringen. Die Lieferadresse lautet 50 Porters Walk, Wapping, London. Möchten Sie den Lieferort von 50 Porters Walk, Wapping, London ändern?
Ja, bitte.
Einen Moment bitte.
Okay.
Hallo, mein Name ist Markus.
So what's happened now is we should see that the call has been connected to the agent's desktop, which we should see appear in a second.
Nope.
I mean, we did rehearse this, I promise.
Can we switch to the agent desktop, please? There we go, look at it.
Okay, so let's explain what's going on. So the conversation that we just about heard was Klaus interacting in German with a voice IVR, which could have been programmed into any language we wanted. So the number he dialed into, we registered as being a German-speaking customer, so therefore it knew to interact in that language. Now, we're logged into an Avaya desktop. This could be any desktop, but this is the one we're using for our example. And just to give you a brief layout of what's going on. So on the left-hand side, we have the customer engagement pane. So this shows us all the different interactions that the agent could be handling. In the middle, we can see what is going on with the conversation. Now, you see here, instead of providing them with a verbatim back and forth that's happened, so normally when we hand things over from virtual agents, whether they're voice or text-based, we typically give the full transcript of that call, and we know that that uses up valuable agent time. So here instead, what we've done is provide them with a brief summary of what has happened with that virtual interaction. And the bit that we maybe didn't quite hear is that using an LLM, so using generative AI, we have already provided the agent's introduction into this call. So instead of handing it over, telling the agent this is what it was about, and then them starting the call afresh, actually the voice that connected to the customer already explained, like, that your name is Marcus and we're going to change your delivery address for you. So we've already given that opening statement, and we always know when a call connects, the first thing an agent will ask is, oh, hiya, how can I help? Even though we've given them the context, right? So we're trying to make sure that call is efficient as possible. Now, on the right-hand side, there's a few other things in the agent assist pane. So one of them is we can detect the language that's being used, the call reasons, the disposition or call reason that's come through. We're also able to use generative AI to suggest responses if one's appropriate, so we can have it auto-generate for us. But we've also provided quick replies. Quick replies allow us, so we know that in some examples it might take a few minutes to either type out the reply that we want to give or to go and action something in another system. So we give the agent some reply options so we can make it as easy, again, so one click for them, it helps to keep the pace of the conversation at a good speed for the customer on the other side of it. And then lastly, just in that kind of middle row of buttons, these are quick actions. So what are repeatable things that we might need to ask the agent to do with the customer? And we'll do one of those examples, but here, for example, we can send an SMS to ask them for their email address, or an SMS to ask them for their location. Now that could be anything, you could have 10 different use cases for yourselves, but as an example of what that functionality can do. So I guess I can hand over to Rutger if you want to continue.
Ich kann dies aktualisieren.
Okay, danke.
Nur damit Sie es wissen, ich spreche kein Deutsch, aber ich benutze ein Übersetzungsprogramm. Einen Moment bitte. Das kann einen Moment dauern. Bitte bleiben Sie in der Leitung. Sind Sie gerade vor Ort?
Ja, ich bin hier.
Ich kann Ihnen einen Link schicken, damit Sie den genauen Standort angeben können. Soll ich das tun?
Oh, das wär klasse, danke.
Ich habe Ihnen einen Link per Textnachricht geschickt. Benutzen Sie diesen, um Ihren Standort einzugeben. Wenn Sie meine Hilfe benötigen, verwenden Sie das Wort Hilfe.
So the bit that you should be, so this mobile phone can pop back up. What you'll see is Rutger has clicked the SMS to request the location from the user, and on,
Wenn Sie meine Hilfe
oh,
benötigen,
we had it there, Klaus.
Yeah, I need to mute it.
wenn Sie meine Wenn Sie meine Hilfe benötigen, benutzen Sie das Wort Hilfe.
So
Andernfalls
Klaus received a
benutzen Sie
text
diesen, um
message, and
Ihren
in this
Standort zu
example,
vermitteln.
we're asking the customer to provide their location. So what's going on in the journey is that the Klaus is asking to have the delivery provided to a different place. So for example, when we all turned up here yesterday with stuff, there's a couple of different delivery locations that you can come in at, and what he's doing here essentially is providing the right one. And so we can provide that information back to the courier company in order for them to provide that information to the driver.
Danke, ich habe Ihren Standort erhalten. Ich werde es hinzufügen.
And then back on the desktop. You should be seeing, there we go. So we can see here that that information's passed through.
Ich habe die Lieferanweisungen aktualisiert.
Oh, wunderbar, danke schön.
Gibt es sonst noch etwas, womit ich Ihnen heute helfen kann?
Nee, danke, das war's. Thank you.
Okay. That kind of worked. You maybe heard some of it. So, and over a coffee or a tea break, we'll happily try and show you it in person. We can give you a number you can call up and see the experience for yourself. Really, this is trying to bring to life what Jakob talked about, letting you see what the agent experience is and what the technology can do. So allowing someone, now whether that's allowing you to, from Transcom's perspective and how they service customers at a lower cost, or whether it allows you to service new customers or better service customers already in your market. So in the UK, for example, even how do we just better serve the diverse community that we have here? This type of technology allows you to do that already. That's it for us. I'll hand back to Craig. Like I say, we'll happily, along with Jakob, explain a little bit more over coffee, and we'll actually show you it working in person then.